All right, so what you're looking at is the kind of under the hood switch for our physics shape. So you're seeing the actual physics bodies being drawn over top of the game here. Great little feature as of iOS 7.1 that they allowed us to do that. And you're seeing two different laser examples here. This one just basically adds a weapon, but that weapon does not move anywhere. Whereas this one, the weapon, or kind of laser projectile here, is moving down. And although it seems like it's hitting this platform and being destroyed, it's actually removing itself right before it hits the bottom of that platform. And both of them use particles. What this one's doing is it's basically adding the particles. Well, both are adding the particles when the weapon is being destroyed. But this one is being added right in the middle of the weapon, whereas there's an offset value that's occurring with this one. So normally the particles would appear right in the middle when the weapon gets destroyed, but that offset just puts it right up here to the top, so it kind of appears like the particles are coming from the top part of the unit. I was trying to think of what am I calling this thing? A laser obstacle unit. So anyway, let's go take a look at it really fast with the debug settings. Oh, there it is. It's already ready. Debug all bodies is set to no, and let's get past all my kid apps here, and then we'll take a look at this one last time before we step over into Flash. And by the way, I'm progressively adding more and more things to this kind of initial demo level. Oh, I actually got struck by that one, and in doing so, I'm sort of amazed almost that the frame rate is staying up above 55, or it's usually above 57 frames per second. There's a lot going on in the scene. So anyway. There you go. Now that's the kind of the full effect of it on, and let's go step over here into Flash. I'll just kind of walk you guys through really quickly the components that make this up. So here's the laser artwork right here, or the laser unit, I should say, and then separate from that are of course our pieces of the actual laser weapon. And when we set this up in the scene, this actually has no collision body, so you can kind of walk in front of it. You don't have to jump through it. But it of course is adding a weapon that has a collision body. And so here's our first unit. It's just a red square with a little glow on it. And this one actually has a kind of a hit in the proper list. It's called animation hit. So when it hits something, or basically when it gets removed, it plays this animation through. So that's what you're seeing occurring, as well as those particle effects that are basically placed at the top of it. And then our short laser, I think that's actually what I called it when I exported this, is just this guy right here. So, and then all of these are just exported from right here in Flash. You just go and right click and it's getting cut off. It's about 4 buttons below swap symbol here. Just export PNG sequence. That's a nice one to do if you're exporting out an animation, because you've got all your animation inside of this movie clip, and then it'll export out each one of these frames. And it also takes into account when you have glows on here. So you can see that the actual animated frames of this would not be the size of kind of what you see over here, the width of 11. It's going to account for those filters being in there, which is a nice little feature that Adobe was sure to include. And by the way, when you're kind of creating your level elements, I found that this is useful if you just bring in something that you've already used in your scene, just for kind of sizing things out. So when I was working on this, I brought in just the shredder, so I would kind of know, all right, well, I'll make this about 3 times as tall as that. And so let's get out of Flash, and we'll step back over here into Xcode. And of course, for my laser breaking animation, what I had to do is create a laser_break.atlas file, and that's just a folder name with .atlas in it. Sorry, I had to shut down the app because it just annoying me. The music started up, and so we've got .atlas over here, and then of course all the exported frames inside of there, and you do your standard definition frames in your @2x. Frames, which are double that size, although it kind of doesn't appear that way in there. And it's possible I messed up the size. I don't know. But what point is that these names are identical except for the @2x part. Okay, so that's all you do for your higher definition frames. And then let's go over here to the property list. Okay, so this is level 1. We've got 2 of these laser units in here. Here is the first one. There's really not too many properties inside of here. I've got the depth set up at 0, which is pointless because that's the default depth for anything that gets added to the scene. So that's a quick one you could delete if you wanted to, and then or not include. And then the image name. So this is I called this laser on. I guess initially I was thinking that there would be a laser off too, but so that's just of course the file the laser unit that I discussed earlier. So that's been imported in here to the image assets catalog. And then affected by gravity, no, that means it's not going to fall down. Affected by physics, no, that means you can't push this thing around. Is collidable with character equals no, and that means that there is no collision body for that thing, so the character can just walk right through the unit. And then finally, uses weapon name. That's an important one. So we've got lasers in here, and uses weapon how often, and that's a number for 4. So that's 4 seconds in there. And now let's jump down to seeing the weapons that the weapon it uses. So that's again lasers. There's that key name, and of course it's going to match that key name right there. Uses weapon named. And let's unfold this. All right, quite a few more options inside of here. This is going to be the image name laser, which we didn't actually look at over here, but I did import that one, of course. So that's that just big kind of broad laser that comes down. And then collision body type, that's going to be square. So it's just the only other option here is circle. So square is going to be the exact size of the image that we're using. And then resize border by, just set that to 1 because that's going to take up the entire 100% of the image. You could scale that down. 0.5 would be 50%. All right, now here's some important stuff. The vector, well, let me start over here. We are going to disable firing in every direction but down. All right, so disable firing down equals no, so that means we've not disabled firing down. But all these other ones, firing up, firing left, firing right, firing when resting, all those things are disabled. Now, that's important because we're just going to have our unit fire in one direction. It's always going to be firing down, firing down, firing down. If I had put firing down and firing up, right? So if I had no for this one as well, then what the kit is going to do is it's going to basically pick out the most appropriate direction. So if the character was underneath the laser unit, then the ammo would be fired down, or the laser would be fired down. But and then if it was above it, then it would try to fire up. Now, keep in mind too that for this particular laser, it's not going anywhere anyway. We're eliminating any vector direction, 0 and 0 for this. So it's in that case, it really wouldn't matter. But again, I've just disabled up anyway, so all I have to do now is just worry about the vector if character faces down. And the naming of this particular property kind of in some ways applies more to if it was the character firing the weapon. See, vector if character faces down. But you could, if it's an object firing the weapon, you can kind of think of this as just vector if character is down, right? So that vector is going nowhere anyway, so who cares? Location offset down. This, I just nudged it over by 1 pixel, and actually when I was looking at the playback, I thought too I could nudge it down by about 1 pixel as well. And what this does is it's going to put the weapon that you fire right in the center of the object that is firing it. Okay, so that offset value, if say you put this at 20, that's going to be 20, or 20 on the Y, that's going to be 20 pixels up this way. On the x-axis, if you added 20, it's going to be somewhere over here, and negative number is going to be over this way, and a negative value is going to be down this way. Okay, so everything is center based, and that's just a slight offset right there. You might not even notice it. And then these values don't matter. Taper down vector after how long. That would just kind of slow down the speed, but again, it's not going anywhere, so I just put this value to match remove after how long. pretty sure you could delete it. I'll double check that. Remove after how long is set to 2, so it's going to be on screen for 2 seconds, and then it's going to remove itself. And when it does do that, it is going to show this particle file named Laser Spark, which is a sprite kit particle file that I've added to the kit. You can go and make your own particle files anytime by going over here to New File and Sprite Kit particle file. When you do that, you'll just have to give it a name, and then it might show up in your class files. You can drag any of those files into the particles file. And of course, here is our Laser Spark right here, and just with a little bit of tweaking, of course, I came up with oh, actually I wanted this to go away, not that other thing. Here we go. And yeah, with a little bit of tweaking, I came up with just, I don't know, laser sparks. I changed the color. You can look at all these settings if you want to freeze the video, you know, do that, and you can get exactly those as well. So let's go back over here and remove particles after how long. So after 1 second, we're going to remove those particles. Number of particles to emit is just a low number like 15. And then the X offset, that's going to be set at 0, but the Y offset is going to be set at 25. And that is what puts those particles right at there. Because remember, the Y offset is going to be at 25, so we're going right up there. And then damage to players, this should be probably, it's a laser. I mean, come on, that should be pretty high. So maybe I should put this at something like 25. So it's that deals out a lot of damage. And then this property doesn't really matter. Ignore collisions that don't damage. This object is not actually colliding with anything. So, but otherwise, it would. If you had this set to yes, like and the laser went through the wall, it would ignore the wall essentially. And then you can kind of further refine that with brakes hitting objects. This could be set to no or yes, because it's there's no objects coming in collision with it, and it's never going to hit a boundary either, so you can get rid of that as well. And then finally the animation hit. So this is what happens when the laser breaks apart, and that's the Atlas name file right there, so laser break. And then our frame order is just going to be sequential. Of course, these don't necessarily have to be sequential, but in this case it is, so we're just going 1 through 8. Of course, those are all the frames that we imported, and there you go. Now, let's talk about, oh, and then, of course, if you're laying out your scene in tiled, let's get tiled open here. What I've done is, as usual, I've just mocked up the level with these images inside of tiled. Of course, these images don't make their way into the Xcode project. You use, of course, the image assets catalog for all your imagery over here. In tiled, you can just drag in an image. You want to use your standard definition ones, put it into here, and then put in the size of the image. And then from that point, you can just grab the insert tile tool. For example, I'll do one right now. Put that right there, and that's your mock-up image. Okay, move it around. And then the important thing is that you're going to go over here and put in a type of objects. And then for the name, you always want to be sure that you give it a matching name in the objects dictionary. So that was laser unit. Let me go back over here just to show you. Objects, laser, unit. There it is. And all right. So basically I just created another one right there. But if I were to go select that one, you'd see the same options. And they're all going to, of course, pool from the same properties. So in this case, they're both gonna be shooting down lasers every 4 seconds there. Let me get rid of that one. I don't feel like we need 3 of them, especially if they're that close. And then good lead into our next laser unit. Here's laser unit 2, just using the same mock-up art, but it's got this 2 over here, which means that we're gonna go and use laser unit 2. Very similar. It's got that the laser on for the art, and then the big difference here is that it uses a weapon named short lasers. And let's go take a look at that one. All the other properties are the same. Short lasers. All right. Again, we've disabled firing in every direction except for down. And this time around, we're using the short laser, all right, and that is over here in the assets catalog. Short laser, it's just a more squat version. And collision body type is still going to be square. It looks like you could resize the border just a little bit more if you wanted. And then vector if the character faces down. All right, now before we had 0 and 0 here, this time we're actually putting in a vector in the down direction, because a -2 is going to bring that weapon downward on the y-axis, negative. And then the location offset down. This is set at 1, so it's just going to move over 1 pixel. That's me being finicky, but the important thing is it's actually going to start at 25 pixels above the center of the unit. So 25 pixels is about right there is where that begins. And then remove after how long. It's not going to be there long. It's just going to be there for 0.4 of a second. And you know, that number I just came by trial and error, and it looked like it removes itself right when it hits the bottom, kind of like right there. And let's see if there's anything else to note. Oh, particle file name is going to be that same laser spark. Remove particles after how long? 2 seconds. That's the same. Number of particles omit, that's the same. And in this case, I'm not doing any sort of offset, all right, because those particles appear in the middle of the weapon, okay, not the object that's throwing the weapon or putting it onto the scene. So in this case, you know, you've got this thing. It goes down, 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 down. It removes itself right about there, and then the particles appear right there. Okay, right in the middle of it. And again, I could probably set the damage a bit higher, and everything else is the same. So that is how you create lasers.